Hi everyone, welcome back to my lab and today's video, which is going to be a try-on haul of the products I showed you in my Sephora Spring VIB sale haul. I bought quite a few products, enough for a full face of first impression, and I threw in a couple of other products that I have bought here and there, and just a couple of favorites to fill in the pieces that I didn't necessarily have brand new. Before we get into the video, if you're new here, I'm Yori. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. I hope you're going to enjoy this one. Consider subscribing to my channel and joining me for a future one. Now, without any further delay, let's rewind time and get into the video. All right, so we're all set to play. I want to start with my eyes because I'm using a brand new eyeshadow palette. Today I'm going to go into the Artist Couture Supreme Nudes palette, and I mentioned in my haul video that this is perfect for the Foxy eye look. And someone mentioned that you weren't sure what the Foxy eye look was. It's basically a cat eye look that gives you that eye lift effect or the ponytail effect. I love the ponytail effect. And it's just supposed to elongate and give you a little bit of an eye lift. Now it's going to be challenging for me because I have hooded eyes. So I've already put tapes in. These are the Sephora collection tapes. And I did apply a little bit of my Urban Decay primer potion. The shadows don't go that high, so I didn't want to use a primer that has a lot of pigment to it. I will just use a little bit of a lighter shade from the palette. Yeah, there's a lighter shade here like Exposed or something if I need to kind of neutralize the discoloration on my eyes. So there's a couple of ways we could actually approach this. We can go from light to dark, the way a lot of people like to use their eyeshadows, but I think I'm actually going to do dark to light. So I'm going to start with that shade right there. It is the shade Mink, and I'm going to apply that using like a pencil brush, and I'm going to apply it pretty close to my lashes and up the tape. It's kind of in a triangle shape. When I was swatching these eyeshadows, they actually felt a little bit dry in terms of the mattes. So if you're familiar with Viseart mattes that have a tendency to feel a little bit dry, these are kind of like that. But actually, like Viseart mattes, they seem to be applying really well. So I'm gonna kind of work my way up the gradients. I first used Mink, then I'm gonna use Aesthetic, then Transcend, and then maybe Stripped as the final shade. So I'm gonna work my way up the eye that way. Actually, no. I think I'm gonna do these tones more, so it's a little bit more of a neutral eye look. So Mink and then Silhouette. We're literally just playing with new makeup, so I might change my mind a couple of times as I go along. So now I'm using a slightly fluffier brush, and I'm going to apply that shade just above it. So you can see I'm creating a gradient from light to dark, and I'm kind of going over the shadow that I already placed, which is going to cause it to blend it away, but I'll go through and intensify it a little bit more as I work with the shadows. So far they're applying really nicely. Now another thing with the Foxy eye look is that people are literally shaving the end of their eyebrows so they can draw their eyebrows going upward a little bit more. Now, I'm not taking this trend that far. I'm not laughing in the face of the gift of naturally full brows and shaving off any part of my brows. So I'm just gonna have to do the Foxy eye look with my normal brow shape. Now, don't get me wrong, it looks really beautiful, but unless you're going to be doing this eye look every single day, I don't know if that's something you want to be doing. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Let me intensify the darker shade a little bit more. Now, I've watched a couple of Foxy eye tutorials, but usually the girls doing those looks have such beautiful, beautiful lid space, and I'm not blessed with that. I have thick eyebrows, but I have hooded eyes, unfortunately, but I could still work with them. All right, so that's looking pretty good. And now I'm going to take a slightly larger brush and work my way up to a lighter color. I'm going to use the shade Stripped. The shadows are just a tiny bit powdery, but they're blending really nicely. Now, these are really neutral colors that I'm using, obviously. Well, the whole palette is neutral, but I can still see them, and they are definitely performing really well. Now I'm trying to avoid bringing the shadow too high like I normally would, and I'm trying to keep that V shape. I might have to add a little bit more of that darker shade to accomplish that. Now, as I mentioned, even though I've seen these Foxy eye tutorials, I can't remember right now if people used liner with it. I know some people, most people use lashes because you want a really winged out look on the edge of your eye, but I can't remember if they used liner or if they pretty much did the liner with the eyeshadow the way I'm doing here. So I'm doing my absolute best to really retain that cat eye shape. I think that's pretty good. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use that lighter shade, and I'm gonna use it on the inside portion of my eye. But in addition to that, I'm also going to blend it upward. So I'm going to apply that on the inner portion of my eye, and I'm just using slight tapping motions here to get a really bright inner corner there. And then I'm going to blend a little bit. So I don't know if that's intense enough to qualify as the Foxy eye. Let me intensify the lash line again. I wish I had like a shimmery champagne shade to sort of apply right in the center to give my eye just a little bit of sparkle. We have a few shimmer shades, but they're a little bit darker in this palette. You have that row there, and this is the lightest shimmer. So I might use that one. Hopefully it won't be too gold. But notice I keep going back and I keep intensifying the darker shade at the base because that's really the foundation of this look. And then lastly, I'm going to apply that light shade on the brow bone, like I mentioned, just to get rid of any discoloration, neutralize that color that I have on my lids. To be honest, this is such a pretty all matte look that I don't want to ruin it by adding a shimmer that is a little bit darker than I would like for this look. So hopefully you don't mind that I don't try out the shimmers with this look, but we can definitely try out the shimmers next time. Now I'm back to debating whether or not I want to apply liner, and I think I do. I want to apply a thin layer of liner, and for that I'm going to use the Melt Cosmetics Immortal, and I'm just going to keep that liner super close to my lashes. I like this liner a whole lot because you can get a very, very mattified look. Now I'm gonna take a quick break, do the other eye off camera, and then we'll continue. Alright, so we're back, and I did not pull off the eye tapes because I figured you would want to see. Alright, that's not too bad. Of course, I have to add mascara and lashes, but you can see that it's kind of giving my eyes that kind of lifted effect. I could have angled them up a little bit more, but other than that, I'm very satisfied with the look. Let me apply a little bit of mascara. Like I said, false lashes are kind of important for this. I'm using the Wonder Beauty Unlashed mascara. So here we have the eyes with a couple of coats of mascara applied. I love the drama of false lashes, so I'm going to apply a pair of Kiss Ritzy lashes, and I will be right back. And we're back with the lashes applied. I love the difference that a pair of lashes will do, especially with a look like this, that it will elongate and lift my eyes, which are otherwise a little bit droopy. I love these, and I've worn these so many times now that they just popped right on. So we are going to be using the Ilia Foundation. I shared this in my haul, and so I thought that for a primer I would go ahead and use something from Ilia as well. Look at this little baby. I bought this little kit a while ago. It's a little duo set that comes with their powder, which is called their Soft Focus Finishing Powder, and their primer. So let's go ahead and use their primer. Okay, I just put a little bit on my hand. This primer is called the True Skin Radiant Priming Serum. I actually saw this primer as a FabFitFun add-on, and I was so tempted to get it. Was it an add-on or was it like their summer sale? It was one of those things, and I was so tempted to get it because I love the way that it felt, but I knew I had this little guy and I wanted to try it before I committed to a full-size product. So let's go ahead and move on to the foundation or the skin tint. This says to apply with your fingers, but I don't want to. I'm just gonna put some on my little dish here. It's very runny. It looks a little bit light. When I swatched it in my haul video, it looks a little bit, it kind of reminded me of the Charlotte Tilbury, the Hollywood Flawless Filter, because it left a little bit of a metallic feel. So I'm going to use my Sephora Collection brush, and I'm just going to dip it in there and spread it throughout. It looks really light, doesn't it? And it's funny because I use the shade matcher on Sephora, and it says that this is the perfect match for the foundation I usually use. Okay, I see. It's blending right in. It's such a light coverage that it's actually blending right in. Because of the way that it feels, I can kind of understand why they would suggest that we apply it with our hands. But I don't know. Yeah, I definitely think you can apply it with your hands. I think it allows it to sink into your skin a little bit better. I'm not sure. Now when I apply it and I blend it in, it does seem to match my skin tone, but honestly I wouldn't have minded a deeper shade. So if you are still interested in picking this one up and you're using the shade matcher, I would go up a little bit. I'm going to be using cream bronzer and everything, so I'm going to darken my skin a little bit with the bronzer, but I do feel that I would prefer a darker shade. So here's what I left from what I applied. It's definitely a luminous finish. It's super glowy. Now applying it with the brush, I don't think it was the brush itself, but I actually feel like I have little flakes. Yeah, I definitely have little flakes all over. That is so strange. I'm actually going in with the last bit with a sponge instead, and I wiped off all those flakes. I don't see them anymore. I mean, if I look closely, yes I do. Maybe it doesn't agree with the primer, but that's strange, right? Because it's from the same line. I'm just using a clean brush to brush away the little fibers. Well, that was really strange. I just had to brush away a lot of those fibers. I'm honestly not sure what caused them, but they're still kind of here on my lips. I'm gonna put a little bit of lip oil. This is the In Beauty Project lip oil. I think I got this in a Trend Mood box. We're gonna keep going, but I'm gonna apply a lot of cream products on top of this, and this flakiness issue is really concerning me. I wonder if it has to do with the Sisley moisturizer that I used earlier, but that was many hours ago. I would definitely say next time I try the Ilia Foundation, I'm going to apply it with a sponge instead, or my hands, the way that they said. Now, in general, the coverage is really light, super light. It almost feels like I don't have anything on, and my skin looks super hydrated. It's very dewy. So if you like a sheer and very dewy finish, then this might be a product you want to look into. This is not a new product for me. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Under Eye Brightener. I always forget the name of it, but I'm gonna apply just a little bit right underneath my eyes so that I don't have to apply too much concealer, especially given that this foundation is such light coverage. Yeah, it's super light coverage, so it wouldn't look good with a very heavy concealer look. I don't have a new concealer, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my Kosas concealer, and I'm just gonna apply just a little bit, and I'm going to blend it out first with my sponge, and then I'll use the brush to get into the inner corners. I want to be very careful not to diffuse that edge. The Foxy look kind of has a harsher edge on the edge. I'm going to use the Ilia powder to set my under eye. I've put a small amount into the cap, and I'm being very careful just to apply on my under eye to make sure I don't have any creasing. These are such tiny products to have come out of this huge box, like really unnecessary. I want to go into my bronzer next, and I'm going to be using the Fenty Cream Bronzer. I picked mine up in the shade Macchiato, and I really like the shade. I think I'm going to use this brush that I got in an Ipsy bag. I'm used to the Huda Beauty Tan Tour, which has a significant higher amount of pigment, so I can actually go in a little bit more aggressively with this one. I've also seen people apply it using their beauty sponges. I like the way it blends out, and I like how the shade is really warm. I think it's going to be really nice for summer. It's layering well on top of the Ilia foundation. I'm not seeing any of that pilling, I guess, that I saw before. That was so strange. The impression I'm getting on the Fenty bronzer is that it's going to be a really beginner-friendly cream product. So if you're intimidated by creams, this is something that blends really easily and cleanly. I'm going in light layers again because it's just the first time I use it, so I wasn't sure what to expect, but it's really sheer and really natural, and it's actually complementing the finish of the foundation really well because it's retaining that luminosity. Looks really pretty. One thing which you probably can't see is as I'm dipping in there, I'm smearing a little bit of the cream on the white part of the compact, which makes it look really messy. Kind of bothers me, but that's the thing with cream products. They do look beautiful on the skin though. Let's go ahead and move on to the blush. I have the Tower 28 Golden Hour blush, and I'm super excited about this one. This is something that was getting such high reviews. It's really hard to open this. Again, I've sort of seen people go into this product with their sponge, but I'm going to use a synthetic brush. And I just went in with just one dip of the brush, and I'm definitely seeing the color pay off. One thing I'm noticing is that all the products I'm using are very lightweight, like very kind of everyday kind of products, including the bronzer, although I could have built that one up. So I'm thinking the eyeshadow is a little too glam for this kind of look, but you know, it's a first impressions and you live and you learn, and I wanted to try the Foxy eye look, and I did. This wasn't part of my Sephora haul, but Ulta Beauty recently had their diamond perk day, and I picked this up in order to qualify for, you know, the promotions that they were having that day. It's the brand new Becca Own Your Light Shimmering Skin Perfector. It's a limited edition one, and the proceeds go to benefit mental health. And I know that Becca has kind of lost popularity, but I think that they're still a really good brand, especially when it comes to complexion products. Now this one looks a little bit more peachy than I would want for today's look, but I just want to try it out. It looks so beautiful. The little flying saucer compact has like a rose gold kind of finish, and like I said, it's called Own Your Light, which is really nice. It's a nice name. So we're gonna pick up a little bit. It definitely has a rosy glow to it. I don't think that this is going to be one for lighter skin tones, and it's funny because on the model that had a much lighter skin tone, it looked beautiful on her, but then again, that's applied by a professional makeup artist, which is not me. So they could probably make it work much better. So if you like a rose gold highlighter, this might be one that you would really enjoy. I still would say that it's better for, you know, medium to deeper skin tones. I think if you have a very fair skin tone, it'll just make a shadow, or you can use it as a luminous blush and it would give you a very pretty finish that way. I had also grabbed this Rms Beauty Bronzer, and it's a powder bronzer, so I'm just gonna layer it a little bit over the Fenty one. I want to go in with a really light hand with this one, so I'm going to use the Sonia G Soft Cheek. Now, I didn't necessarily feel I needed more bronzer, I just wanted to use it to see how it would look. It's picking up on the brush really easily. It also seems to be blending really well on an unset face because I only set underneath my eyes. I barely applied any of that. I'm gonna have to try it again on its own to see how that works out on its own. But it looks pretty so far. I think it's definitely a little bit more orange than the Fenty Beauty Bronzer. Now, I don't know that the Foxy look necessarily requires that you do something on your lower lash line, but my under eye is not looking so cute. And I know it's not the Charlotte Tilbury or the Kosas concealer because I've used those before. The only new variable is the Ilia powder. It just looks a little bit dry on me right now, but I keep kind of blending it a little bit and then it looks better. So we'll see. I'm going to go into the eyeshadow palette again and just use a combination of those shades underneath my lower lash line just to give me a little bit of a smokiness and then to disguise my creasing under eyes. I might actually just leave it with that shade stripped here. It gives such a beautiful natural looking shadow. The color builds up really nicely too. So now onto the lip product. I'm going to be using this Gucci lip product. This one is in the shade Penny Beige. The lipstick has a perfume to it. I didn't notice that when I was swatching it. It's a really nice nude, more of a warm tone nude. It has a lot of peachiness to it, doesn't it? It could be all these peachy, rosy, who knows, cheek colors that I have going on that's doing that. But it's also applying a lot more creamy than a traditional matte lipstick, and this is one of their matte ones. So again, that's the shade Penny Beige. It's definitely perfumed. It smells good. It doesn't smell bad, but I don't know that that's necessary in a lip product. Pretty, pretty. So let's see, I didn't get a chance to play with the Fenty gloss bombs, but I've used the Fenty gloss bombs in the past and I didn't get to use the Natasha Denona palette. Actually, I could have used that sparkly tone from this one. I don't know, should we do it? Like right there, a little bit of sparkle. That tone right there. This is definitely more rosy. Let me leave it alone before I break it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some lower lash line mascara, and I'm going to apply a nude eyeliner to the waterline to brighten up my eyes. But other than that, I think this is the finished look. What do we think so far? I'll share my final thoughts when I come back. So here we are with the finished makeup look. I've worn it a couple of hours now. I wanted to get an idea of how the products were going to wear over time, and I'm ready to share my first impression thoughts with you. Let's begin with these Ilia skin tint. This just caused me a mishap, right? I have no idea what was causing that white flaking that I was having. The pilling, I guess, is the only way that I can describe it. I can't imagine that it was reacting badly with the primer, since this is also from the Ilia line, but I definitely did note that my preferred application is going to be with a beauty blender or beauty sponge for this one, and otherwise just going in with my hand. So I'm going to continue to try it. It's very lightweight, super comfortable. It's not settling into my lines. It's too thin for that. So it just feels super lightweight, and products layered very well over it. I didn't feel that when I started layering products it was moving around in any kind of way. I feel like the serum or skin tint kind of absorbed and left the pigment behind. So I think I'm gonna like it, but I have to figure out what was going on with that pilling situation, because if that continues to happen, then this one is gonna be a fail, which is a shame because I love Ilia so much. While on that topic, I'll go ahead and mention the powder. This is the one product that I wasn't too impressed by because I feel my under eyes were creasing and a little bit more dry than they normally would be if I was using the Pat McGrath powder or my Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Airbrush Finish powder. Those really set my under eye in such a beautiful kind of filtered effect that I'm not sure if that's happening with this one. I'll have to keep trying this one and see how I feel, but again, it was only my first time for both the primer and the powder, so I will report back on that. What I did like about the powder is that it doesn't change the color of your concealer. It truly is a translucent powder, and I did feel that it had a soft focus effect, but I just didn't like the way it dried out right underneath my eyes, and it made it look a little bit crinkly, a little more so than usual. The eyeshadow palette I did enjoy. I'm so glad I picked this one up. Like I shared, it was a little bit powdery while I was using it. The mattes are a little bit powdery. They're dry to the touch as well, but they blend so nicely. I'm sorry I didn't get to use any of the metallic shades today, but I really wanted to try this Foxy look, and I really enjoy the way that it turned out. So I worked with basically this shade here and the entire first row, and I think the mattes blend really, really beautifully. They swatch beautifully as well, but I think that the true indication of the performance is how they apply, and I think that they apply really well. I just find them a little bit powdery, but other than that, the formula is really nice, and it reminds me of my Viseart formula. The Fenty cream bronzer is something that I really like. I think that this goes so well with a foundation like the Ilia one because it's so sheer and lightweight. It blends so easily, and I just found it really easy to work with. If you're new to creams and you want to try a cream bronzer, this is a really great place to start. Another one is the Milk Makeup Bronzer. Has a similar consistency, but I think that this one, because you can dip your brush or beauty sponge right in, it's super easy to use, and the shade Macchiato I feel worked out really well for me. I really, really like this one. Same goes for the Tower 28 blush. I applied this one with, goodness, that's the only thing I would have to complain about is opening these packages. Okay, there we go. It's really hard. Not that you couldn't see the blush right through it, but anyway. I applied it with a brush. I used a synthetic brush, and I think that the color is so beautiful. These products play so well together. I feel that the Ilia Foundation, and this blush, they work so well together. They give you such a bright, youthful appearance to your face that I feel like I should have painted on fake freckles, you know, like it's the kind of vibe that it's giving me. I think it's really pretty. Also, another product that is very easy to work with. I would just say go in with a very light hand, and it blends beautifully. Now, I worked on an unset base, face with these, so my first impression for that is good. I'm not sure how they would work if you had powdered down your foundation. Now with the Rms Beauty Bronzer, I really can't say much about this. You saw I just kind of applied it just to say that I did. But one thing that I will say is that the shade is not as dark as it appears in the pan, although you can definitely build it up. I did like how this worked, at least on top of the bronzer that I had already applied, but I would like to try it on its own and see how I feel about it as a bronzer, standalone bronzer. We also tried the Becca Highlighter, and I have to say that after I applied setting mist, I like the effect of it much more. I feel that it really melted into my skin, and even though it still has a light pink kind of glow to it, it looks a lot more like glass skin. So I was commenting that might not be suitable for lighter skin tones, but actually if you have a pink undertone, it might work really well for you because, like I said, as soon as I applied the setting spray, it feels like it just turned into glass skin. And there's a little bit of a pink reflect, but it's not something that's too overpowering and it's not causing a shadow on my particular skin tone. And the packaging on this one is so pretty. This is super, super pretty. I'm actually really happy I picked it up. It's a limited edition. Who knows? Who knows? It's listed as limited edition right now. It's available on Beautylish, on Ulta, and Sephora. I picked mine up on Ulta because I wanted to participate in the Diamond Perks Day, and I'm really glad I did. It's really pretty, and even though it's not necessarily the shade I would have picked for this kind of look, I think that once it melted in, I think it actually looks really pretty, and it does contribute to that fake freckles. I want to put fake freckles on my face all of a sudden. Last but not least, we have the Gucci lipstick, and this one was in the shade Penny Beige. And I have to say, one thing I didn't notice before is how perfumed this is. As soon as I started applying, I noticed the perfume right away. And you know, you can kind of sense that there's fragrance there. It's not too overpowering. It's not noxious in any sense. It's not like it makes me feel like I tasted perfume, but there is a flavor there. It's hard to explain. If you've tried these lipsticks, you can comment down below and let me know what you think of them. But when you're applying them, you can definitely smell the fragrance. It's not an off-putting fragrance. It's just a perfume fragrance. In terms of the formula is super nice. For a matte lipstick, this is one of the most comfortable ones I've worn. And the way I applied it was I went straight on with a bullet and then I pressed it in with my fingertips, and it was beautiful. Like, it still looks good. The shade is great. It's just enough of a deep shade that it doesn't wash me out. It reminds me a little bit of the Dose of Colors More Creamer Please shade because it has a little bit of a yellow undertone to it. But I think it's really nice, and it actually picks up with the eyeshadow look so well. So I'm really excited about this one. I had to know. Gucci lipstick. I had to know. So those were the main things I was trying out today. I did try out that lip oil. I mean, it wasn't my first time, but when I opened it, I actually put it all over my white dress, and this is why I cannot have nice things. With that, that is the end of my video. These are just my first impressions on my products. I will be sure and keep playing with them a little bit, and I'll report back at a later date. I like to do haul follow-ups and things like that, so you'll be hearing from me about these products again. Do share your thoughts about them in the comment section down below. What you thought of the Foxy look. Did I get it? Did I not get it? I think it's pretty good for a girl with hooded eyes like mine. I think I did pretty well. Pretty proud, pretty happy with my makeup look. Now I'm gonna go ahead and maybe make dinner and film another video later on. For the time being, I really appreciate the time that you spent with me. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up for me. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, as I would love to see you again. I hope you're doing really well, staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you again really, really soon on my next one. Bye-bye.